Greetings everyone. Hope all of you have been having an absolutely fantastic day. We're back again with more Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Appreciate all the support on my build videos. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and leave me a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're definitely going to continue to drop more Pathfinder content. So a lot of you already know that when the game fully releases, I'm definitely going to be playing the Lich Mythic Path. But I've been having a lot of trouble figuring out which specific class I'm going to play with it. And I think I finally might have solved that puzzle. Owlcat has released a class specifically for the Dampere race, and I think it might serve our purposes. So let's dig into it, see how it works, and find out whether or not this is what we're going to roll when the game releases next month, hopefully. So the name of the class is the Cruorormancer. And this class allows him to infuse his magic with the power of his blood. Let's look at the details because I want to make sure you all understand it before we start breaking it down. So first, you lose the ability to pick your specialist school. It must be necromancy. And you lose your arcane and bond, so you can't have an object or familiar. You also lose 2 of the wizard feats that you would usually get while leveling up. But in exchange for all of this, you get to infuse your spells in particular ways. So right off the bat, you get a blood infusion that gives you focused infusion, which gets a +1 to the DC of the infused necromancy spell. And you also get sickening infusion, which means anytime you use it, any creature damaged by your spell becomes sickened for 1 round. Now, when you do that, you take an amount of damage equal to 1d4 plus half of your wizard level. At level 5, you get an infusion specifically for the Animate Dead spell, which is going to give you a +4 enhancement bonus to strength and constitution for those summoned skeletons. And then finally at level 20, you can perform these infusions without taking any damage. All right, so that's how the class works. Let's go ahead and dig in. So of course we're going to be a Dampere, we'll be male. For heritage, I'm going to choose Vatala Born, which is going to give us a +2 racial bonus to dexterity and intelligence. And we're going to take a small hit to wisdom. Background. So I need, because of the skills that are given with this particular class, I need something that's going to give me persuasion. And I think it kind of makes sense that this is a person that comes from a noble lineage, a noble vampire lineage. Me personally, I choose Courtier because it gives you persuasion and trickery. Having trickery on your main character gives you more flexibility about what party members you actually need to have in your squad. If you don't have trickery, then you basically have to take either Woljif or Camellia. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where you can't open a lot of the chested doors that you come across. All right, so now for attributes, we're going to completely dump strength. We don't need it. We'll take dexterity to 14. We're going to take constitution to 15. We're going to take intelligence to 19. We're going to put 2 more points into wisdom to wipe out that negative points that we have there. And then we'll take charisma to 14. Now for skills, you definitely want to have persuasion. Everything else is completely up to you. Again, having trickery gives you more flexibility about what kind of party members you need to have on your team. But since you are not leveling up dexterity, even if you take trickery as one of your main skills, you're probably going to need an item to help boost up the score a little bit. So what you do is up to you. And for your first feat, I would take Life Dominant Soul. This is going to allow you to be healed by positive energy. And then for your bonus feat, go Spell Focus and Necromancy. Your opposition school kind of comes down to play style. Me personally, I definitely know he's not going to be doing any divination. And not into enchantment either. You take all the necromancy spells here, and then you want Expeditious Retreat, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, and Shield. Deity, I choose Urgathor. For your 3rd level feat, get Spell Penetration. And then for your 3rd level spells, I would get Scare, which is a fantastic area of effect crowd control spell, and Bone Shaker, in case you need to deal some direct damage. On the 4th level, increase intelligence and continue to level intelligence throughout your level ups. On 4th level, I'd grab False Life and Mirror Image. On 5th level, I'd grab Greater Spell Focus, Necromancy. I personally don't like Vampiric Touch because I feel like you have to be way too close in order to make use of it. So you can get Ray of Exhaustion. And then what else you get here kind of is determined by the makeup of your team. The spell magic is nice sometimes if you need to strip a particular defense off of an enemy. Displacement is great to make you or maybe one of your melee characters harder to hit. Haste is fantastic for your entire party to give them an additional attack and make them all significantly faster. And then protection from arrows is also great defense to help them against other enemies that are using arrows. And then resist energy along with protection from energy communal will help you against one particular energy type. So wherever the weakness or whatever's missing on your team, you might want to be the one to pick up the slack here. Otherwise, if everything's covered, I would recommend that you still go ahead and pick up haste. It's actually really nice to be able to cast haste on yourself, even when you're walking around the city or in a particular hub. Makes everything significantly faster. At level 7, grab greater spell penetration. And then for your level 7 spells, I would get Animate Dead and Fear. And then for your level 8 spells, I would go ahead and grab False Life Greater. And then you can get either Bone Shatter or Bestow Curse. There's also Dimension Door, which you definitely want if nobody else on your team has it. At level 9, grab Combat Casting. And then for your level 9 spells, I would get Racking Ray. And then I would probably also get Waves of Fatigue. But just keep in mind that Animal Growth is a fantastic buff for any of your pets. Makes them do a lot more damage. And Stone Skin Communal is fantastic defense for your entire party as well. There is a Diamond Dust cost with it, but Diamond Dust is actually very, very plentiful in the game. So you might want to consider grabbing that as well. For your level 10 Wizard feat, I grab Reach. For your level 11 feat, I grab Spell Specialization, Banshee Blast. And then for level 11 spells, I would get Banshee Blast and Eye Bite. And then for your level 12 spells, you do have Circle of Death and Undeath to Death, which both do fantastic damage, but they both cost Diamond Dust. And while I feel comfortable using Diamond Dust for buffs, because you might only have to cast a buff once for an entire dungeon run, I don't feel comfortable using it for spells, which is supposed to be used over and over again as you go to different encounters. So your mileage may vary, but I actually skip these. You can grab Create Undead, which is a summon spells that's available to you at this level. And then I would also grab Dispel Magic Greater if you like, if you don't have anybody else that can use this. For your 13th level feat, I would get Critical Focus. And for your spell specialization, I would get Finger of Death. And here at level 13, I would select Finger of Death and Ice Body. And here at level 14, I definitely get Wave of Exhaustion. There are a couple of other really nice spells here. Legendary Proportions will significantly help your melee damage characters. Keep in mind that it does have a dinosaur bone cost, and dinosaur bones are not plentiful in the game. So it's not something that you want to spam. And then you definitely wouldn't select it for this character, but somebody on your team should be casting True Seeing Communal, which is going to basically allow you to see all of the invisible creatures that you're coming across in the game. And there are a lot of them. It does have a Diamond Dust cost, but it's well worth it. Now at this point, you've gotten the vast majority of feats in this game that are really going to help this build. So you've got some float room now. I love summons, so I use this opportunity to start specializing a little bit more in the summons that I'm using, but you could do whatever it is that works for you. I go Spell Focus and then Conjuration. And then in the Wizard bonus feat, I get Augment Summoning. And then for Spell Specialization, get Horrid Wilting. And then at level 15 for spells, get Horrid Wilting and Frightful Aspect. I would say you should take Death Clutch and Bestow Curse Greater at this particular level. And then finally, you took Conjuration and Augment Summoning so that you could get Superior Summoning. Each time you cast a summoning spell that conjures more than one creature, add 1 to the total number of creatures summoned. This only really helps you with the skeleton spell, but I still love it. It's still nice for me to have. And then Spell Specialization, Wail of the Banshee. So at level 17, you definitely want to get Wail of the Banshee. You should hopefully have a cleric in your party who is casting level 9 cleric spells, one of which gives your party a significant defense against spells cast on them. If you don't have that though, you might want to consider getting Mind Blank Communal, which is going to give you a significant boost in defense against mind affecting spells and effects. Otherwise, go ahead and grab Fiery Body. Okay, so now that we went through the regular levels, let's go ahead and look at the mythic options. Mind you, there's a bug in the game right now that prevents me from respeccing my main character and showing you specifically how I would go through the mythic path. So I'll go through the general mythic options first, and then we'll talk about what I would have specifically chosen during the Lich mythic path. So at level 1, I choose Abundant Casting. At level 2, I go back into Mythic Ability and get Improved Abundant Casting. At level 3, I get Enduring Spells. At level 4, I go back into Mythic Ability, get Greater Abundant Casting. At level 5, get Greater Enduring Spells. So here at Mythic level 6, you've got a few options as far as what you could do, and I consider all of them to be kind of equal. You could go into School of Mastery and raise the caster level for all of your necromancy spells. This is definitely a worthy choice because there are a lot of damage spells in the necromancy school that depend upon caster level. You could also go into Extra Mythic Ability. If you've been having a problem with getting hit a lot, or maybe because of the infusions you're taking, you're constantly low health and it's put you in dangerous situations, you could take Archmage Armor, which every time you cast Mage Armor on yourself, it's going to give an additional armor bonus equal to your mythic rank. Or you could go ahead and take Ascendant Summons if you've been using the summons a lot. This is going to give them a bonus to the Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma equal to half your mythic rank +1. So at this time right now, it would be +4 in addition to the +4 that you get from the feat that you took. Their attacks now ignore damage reduction except against those creatures who already are set to have a reduction to physical damage, period. Okay, let's go over the decisions I've made. We're just going to go over this briefly real quick because I think the spells is really where this character is defined. I've already went over the different infusions that you get access to with this particular class, so it's going to make your necromancy spells much more powerful. And then if you look at the feats, I took some that I feel like are pretty much standard for spellcasters. So of course you want Spell Focus and Greater Spell Focus specifically for necromancy. And then you want Spell Penetration and Greater Spell Penetration. Combat Casting in case you get surrounded and still need to cast spells. Reach Spell actually allows you to extend how many uses you have of the, what is this spell called? Animate Dead. So you get it at level 4, but with the Reach Spell, you could actually extend it to level 5 and put it into some of your slots here if you really enjoy being able to be a summoner. Critical Focus, you're probably not going to crit all that often, but it's available for you, so I figured why not take it. And then these last 3, as I mentioned while we were leveling up, you can actually switch them out with something else if you like. But I'm someone who really likes being a summoner, especially as a Lich. I love the idea of being a competent summoner as a Lich. So taking Conjuration, which then opens up Augment Summoning and Superior Summoning, just kind of makes sense to me. And then if you look at the mythic options that I chose, Abundant Casting, Improved Abundant Casting, and Greater Abundant Casting all significantly increase how many spell slots you have available, while Enduring Spells and Greater Enduring Spells significantly extend how long your buffs last. In fact, many of your most important buffs will now last 24 hours once you have Greater Enduring Spells. And then Ascendant Summonings is going to significantly increase the damage of the summons that you put out. Okay, so now that we've went through all the general options you select, let's go through the specific spells that I think you'll be using throughout the game. So starting at level 1, these necromancy spells that you selected will quickly be outclassed, but the buffs you get here you'll probably use throughout the entire game. So you get Shield, Expeditious Retreat, and Mage Armor. And remember, with the mythic options that you selected, these are going to last 24 hours for you. Expeditious Retreat is important because a lot of the best necromancy spells are cone abilities. So you're going to need to run to a specific spot in order to be able to aim the cone properly and use it in a way that doesn't also affect your team members. And then you do also have Magic Missile, which is going to be a nice damaging spell for you towards the beginning and maybe mid-game. But by the time you actually become a Lich, this should be completely outclassed and you won't be using it anymore. Then on level 2, Mirror Image gives you a fantastic amount of protection and it should last for 24 hours, along with False Life. And then Scare and Bone Shaker are very nice at the time that you get them, but again, they'll be quickly outclassed by some of the other abilities you're going to get. So here at spell level 3, you can ignore Animate Dead. It's a bug that causes it to pop up here, but it's actually a level 4 spell. Haste and Protection from Arrows are buffs that your entire party will definitely benefit from, and the displacement is really nice to be able to make you or another melee-oriented character in your party much harder to hit. Then in addition to that, you do get the Lich spell Mastery of Flesh, which does significant damage to a single target. Definitely something that's nice to have slotted here. Then at spell level 4, all the options are really nice. You do have Animate Dead, and of course you have an infusion to make the summons you get from Animate Dead even better. Bone Shatter is great single target damage. False Life Greater is going to give you some more survivability. Fear is a highly effective status to place on enemies, especially if you're in turn-based combat. If you're in real-time combat, it can be a little annoying sometimes because your enemies can run all across the map, so they can end up pulling other enemies to you or making it rather difficult to track them down. But in turn-based, because they're limited in how far they can run, it's much easier to just follow up with them and take them out. And then in addition, you do have the Lich spell Consume Undead, which is going to allow you to do 1d8 damage per caster level to undead creatures. And then at spell level 5, if you don't have anybody else with animal growth or a stone skin communal, then I definitely recommend you make use of them. Otherwise, I feel like the Lich spells that you get are better than everything on this list. Bone Explosion is an incredible spell to use as an area effect damage. It can wipe out entire rooms. And then in case anybody does survive, Exsanguinate is definitely a fantastic single target spell that will destroy a lot of enemies. And then at level 6, this is just a fantastic spell level for you. There you've got way more great spells than you actually have slots to be able to use. So Create Undead is a really nice summon, but just keep in mind it only brings about one person, as opposed to the multiple skeletons that will take advantage of the feat that you've already had selected. Dispel Magic Greater is fantastic to be able to strip defenses off of a particular creature. Banshee Blast is a great damaging spell, and of course it can cause enemies to become panicked, which again is a great status to be able to put on them. Just absolutely shuts them down. And then Eye Bite puts a particular status on a creature based on what their hit dice are, and it's not affected by target spell resistance. So again, it's a great option, and it's something that as a swift action you can apply again and again to other enemies that might be in the room. Then in addition to all of that, you have a few Lich spells that are fantastic for this build. False Grace basically gives you the same effect as False Life, but it does it for the entire party. And then you have Siphon Time, which is going to both haste your party members and slow enemies. Absolutely fantastic to take over a battlefield. And then even though I kind of downplayed it during my Lich breakdown, in this build, Bone Shield is actually fantastic because you're going to be using your infusions to strengthen the spells that you're using. There will be some times where you're running around at half health or at risk of being one-shotted out of nowhere by a particular enemy. So being able to keep Bone Shield on you, especially with the buffs, mythic options that you're taking, you'll be able to keep Bone Shield up for 24 hours. That's actually a nice bit of protection that'll help you during your more vulnerable moments. And then at level 7, again, you've got a bunch of really nice spells. Legendary Proportions you took in case you don't have anybody else on the team that can use that buff. Ice Body is absolutely fantastic protection for yourself. Finger of Death is a really nice spell based upon your caster level. And then of course, being able to put exhaustion onto your enemies is very powerful as well. But honestly, the spell I feel like you'll be using the most is the Lich spell Feast of Blood. It's just like Exsanguinate, except this time it affects all enemies that you're going up against. Very powerful stuff. And then you also have Restore Undead, which is going to heal all of your undead allies. And remember, as a Lich, it's very possible that you are running with an all undead party. So this could be very, very powerful for you. And then at level 8, you get Frightful Aspect, which is essentially going to try to frighten all the enemies that are around you. It's absolutely fantastic. And then you have Horde Wilton. I talked about this before. It's going to do a 20d6 damage to all the enemies that are around you, 20d8 if they happen to be plant creatures. And then Bestow Curse is a great way to try to disable or weaken a particular enemy. And then Death Clutch is great for single targets that have already had a significant amount of health points taken away. At this level, you also get Embrace of Death, which will take one target, put them into a coma, and then steadily drain Constitution from them. And then finally, at level 9, great stuff. Fiery Body gives fantastic protection for your character. Corrupt Magic from the Lich spell book allows you to literally dispel everything that's on a particular enemy character. Just strip all of their defenses away. Fantastic ability. And then Negative Eruption is basically the harm spell that will harm living creatures and heal and buff undead, but it does it to an entire group instead of just one particular person. So as you can see, Negative Eruption does have a cap. It goes up to basically cast to level 15, allow you to do 150 points of damage. So the most damaging spell that you have in your arsenal is actually Wail of the Banshee, which is just a flat 10 points of damage per caster level. Now, notice though that Negative Eruption is not impacted by spell resistance, and you'll actually see that for a lot of Lich spells, they are not impacted by spell resistance, whereas Wail of the Banshee is. So you have to make a decision for yourself about which one you would prefer to use. But also keep in mind that this class should be able to combine its spellbook with the Lich. So when you combine spellbooks, it significantly increases your caster level. So for example, you see on this character I have right now, I'm at a level 17 and I have a 17 caster level. But that's because I was not actually able to select the Lich. In the playthrough that I did before, where I actually did combine spellbooks, my caster level was 23. So you're going to lose a significant amount of damage sticking with Negative Eruption. But again, of course, it's going to be much more guaranteed that you can actually hit. Whereas with Wail of the Banshee, the sky's the limit, but it's also to some degree impacted by your ability to cut through an enemy's defenses. Okay, so now that we've covered all that information, let's specifically get into what I would have you select as a Lich. You're going to be able to select several Lich powers. The first one that I would suggest you do is Magic Devourer. It's going to give you fantastic protection against other enemy spellcasters. And to me, it just makes sense that if you're the ultimate spellcaster, you shouldn't be susceptible or vulnerable to other little weaklings that are using spells. And then the next power I would have you get after that is Wither Life, which is going to do attribute damage against enemies every time you're able to successfully damage them with one of your spells. It's just another chink in the armor, and it allows you, even when you're doing damage, to also do a little bit of crowd control and weaken how good they are at their abilities. And then for the skeletal champion that you get to go along with being a Lich, I would recommend that you have that person concentrate on cleric spells, because one weakness of this build is that you really don't have the ability to heal yourself, even though you're damaging yourself all the time. So to have a minion that's right next to you who can heal the damage that you're doing anytime it wants to is actually really helpful. You do, of course, get party member clerics like Darien and Soseo, but they're all built for positive energy because, of course, that's the kind of party most people will be running with. So you don't naturally meet clerics who are going to be dealing negative energy towards you. So it's nice to just have that person right next to you who can go ahead and handle it. And that's the build. I think this could be highly effective as a Lich, and I'm really looking forward to going through this playthrough But let me know down in the comments. What do you all think? Do you all feel this build is effective? Are there things that I could have done to make it even better? I'm looking forward to hearing all of your feedback. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.